We have just published the Instagram reel for the Southern Bridges Run by the Singapore Frontrunners. In this live stream, I will explain how I created the video. But first, let's take a look at the video that we published. It's over here, my Finder. I call it Reel1.m4v. This is the video that we published to Instagram Reels as well as YouTube, TikTok, and RedNote. And here it goes. Don't worry, everybody will. And that was the video where we published. In earlier runs for previous weeks, I used to have two videos. One video for the running and the warm-up, another video for the cool down and the social, the brunch after. For this particular video, unfortunately, I was a bit late. I missed the cool down. So since I lack the content to create a second video, I put everything into one single video. So this is a 36-second video of everything from the running to the brunch later. So yeah, everything's all compressed. But things that I find interesting about this video, this is the first time that I'm using color adjustment. So notice that the colors are quite saturated. Some points maybe a bit too much. Notice here that the red colors pop very much, which is good because the folks who are running our Singapore Frontrunners t-shirt, singlet, the colors will pop up quite nicely. However, the problem is that anything red will also pop up, including this red path here. Do I like it for future videos? Not sure. Maybe I'll think about it again. I'll show you later how I created this video, the color adjustment. Now, the other thing interesting about this video is that I also use color adjustment for the lower part of this video. This lower part video is supposed to show the scenery, but I found that the scenery was a bit too clashing with the running on top, right? I'm trying to feature as much as our runners as possible, and this bottom part here, the running, was a bit too distracting. What I did was that I desaturated the lower part of the video. So I reduced the saturation of this video so that make it more dull. That's why you can see that the green is not the same. The green here is very nice, bright and vibrant, full of saturation. Over here is kind of dark and dull. It's desaturated. So I'm hoping that this will help our viewers focus on the activity happening on top, not the ones happening at the bottom. Yeah. In any case, I'm aware that if we are posting this on Instagram Reels means that the lower third of the video will likely be kind of ignored, because the lower third of the video will contain the Instagram titles. And in any case, I'm going to focus on the lower upper half with the saturated video, and the lower half, since it's desaturated, it will have less interest, and also the titles will be at this lower third. Therefore, there'll be less interest on this lower part of the video. Yeah. Let's see. Other interesting parts of the video is that so the music is a bit different also. This is a Hindi piece of music, Hindi-English kind of piece of music by Martin Garrix. Yeah, so it's a bit different from the regular kind of music. Yeah, otherwise you can see here that the saturation really shows through. The red colors will really pop up and everybody looks a bit orangey, a bit unnatural, but let's see whether it works with our viewers. Yeah. Now let's go in and look at how we created this video. Let me just close this. The first step in creating this video is that we imported the video files from our Insta360 X5 camera. This is a 360-degree camera. And if you copy the files out from the micro SD card, there are two types of files. There's the VID file, which is a huge file, the full video in 360-degree format. Then there's a LRV file, which is the low resolution version of the video. So you can see that it's got the same timestamp and date stamp, right? But for this editing of the videos, we use the VID file, not the LRV file. The first thing we do is that we need to export all these files into a MP4 format file that can be easily edited with Final Cut Pro. I've recorded a screencast of this conversion. Let me play it through with you now. This is what I actually did for the conversion of the video files into a MP4 format. So I launched Insta360 Studio. Inside Insta360 Studio, we will create a new project. The project that we will create is called a 360 degree panorama video 2x1. So new project, make sure that we select 2x1, 360-degree panorama. This will create an rectangular format, a 360-degree format that will work with Final Cut Pro. Then we import our music. Import the videos. We copied the video files from the micro SD card into our SSD drive. Now we will select only the VID files, not the LRV. Remember that VID files are the huge files that are interesting for that will contain the original video. The LRV files are the low-res versions, the low-res proxy. We select all the VID files and put it into our Insta360 Studio. We look for the first VID file and the last one. Yep, scroll down. So I'm looking through the timestamp to make sure that they match. And we open. So these files are all selected. They're quite huge, but let's just open them. Now, Insta360 Studio is now trying to, understand the file format. Yeah. Now, in a while, we're going to export these files in two formats. We're going to export everything as one huge file that has everything all combined into one MP4 file. This is the MP4 file that we upload to YouTube, and this will be the 360-degree version of our run. In future, people will be able to wear their virtual reality glasses and be able to experience the run, in almost like real life. The second version is that we'll create a bunch of files, individual files, one MP4 file for every single clip. Notice that I drag all the clips into a timeline, right? This will create a single timeline of all the 360-degree clips, right? What I'm doing now is that I have to go through the list and make sure everything is all in sequence, 374, 375, 377, make sure that nothing is missed out, right? Because I want to create one single MP4 file that I can upload to YouTube that will record the entire run for Southern Ridges by Singapore Frontrunners. This is the one that we want to, experience in future with virtual reality glasses, how the actual run was like, right? So this is me going through the entire list of files just to make sure that we have the right sequence. If any files are in the wrong sequence, if the numbering is off, then it will look quite strange. You look in the video that it got jumbled up, right? So therefore, it's very important that we look at the numbering, make sure that everything is all in the right sequence, right? Once everything is done, we will click the export button at the top right. In a while we'll do that. So just making some final checks, making sure that we are in the right sequence, running from Kent Ridge MRT to Kent Ridge Park to Mount Faber, to Telok Blangah Hill, then to Mount Faber. And just making sure that all the files are there. Last number is 416. That's it. Hit the export button at the top right. Now, we will now export as a single clip, right? By convention, we'll call this long.mp4 because it's got everything. This is the one that we upload to YouTube. One single clip, 8K resolution. Okay, we select one single clip. Make sure we select the highest bit rate, 200 megabits per second. Then we click export. This will export everything as one single file that we upload to YouTube. Right, so we can then now we do multiple clips. Export mode, select multiple clips. This means that every single clip that we dragged in will go into its own file. We'll rename it as Southern Ridges. This is the version that we update, that we will edit using Final Cut Pro. make sure the bit rate is the maximum 200 megabits per second, and then export. If we go into the task list, yeah, we will see two jobs. There is a long.mp4, which is the entire video that we upload to YouTube. Then we have a Southern Ridges clip 1 to 43 that we will edit later with Final Cut Pro. Okay, and that was my recording of the whole process. Pretty straightforward. Now, what happens next is that we have a whole bunch of files inside our folder, but the names in the files are a bit strange. Let's skip this. Let me explain what happened. When we first exported the file, remember that it says it will export in clip 1 to clip 43. Yeah, this is good. But trouble is that if we look at the original files that were copied from our Insta360 X5 camera, the file names are different. They use the date timestamp, and I prefer the date timestamp so that we know where this video came from. In future, if you want to trace where this video came from, we have a date timestamp to figure out. Date timestamps are also helpful because I'm going to provide the FIT file. The FIT file will have the latitude and longitude of every single point in my run, right? Therefore, we can do the matching to figure out for this part of the video, what was the latitude and longitude coordinates of my position. Now, so here's the problem. We have a bunch of clips that were numbered 1 to 43. How do we rename it to the right timestamp? That's when I use my Google Sheets to rename it. So I just copy over the original file names, right? The original file names were this date timestamp. To get this, I did a tools, data, split text to columns, then I split by underscore, custom underscore. That will allow me to split these file names, portable SSD. See, when I split this file name, vid underscore datestamp underscore timestamp, it will split into vid, datestamp, timestamp, and other stuff, right? Then I did a listing of the files. I did an ls. What I did was this ls minus rt, which is to list by timestamp, date created, start.mp4, and pipe it to cat. I will get a list of clips from 1 to 43. Then I just copy this whole bunch like this, copy, and then I paste it here. Yeah, the reason for doing that is that now we have a match. We know that clip 1 will correspond to this datestamp, timestamp, and clip 43 corresponds to this datestamp, timestamp. That's why it's important to make sure that all the files are listed in the right sequence. Otherwise, this thing will go messed up. It will not match the date timestamp, right? Then I use a formula here to compute what is the right file name that I want to rename to. So I want to rename clip 1 as Southern Ridges, datestamp, timestamp. And I use this formula here. So the way to understand this formula is that I want to use the name Southern Ridges, yes, but I also want to include the datestamp as well as the timestamp, right? But timestamp is missing a 0 in front. So that happens when you convert a string into a number. It's actually 0758, as in 7:58 a.m. But the 0 is missing. That's why I put a concatenation of 0. I prepend a 0 in front to the timestamp. But if the timestamp is already got 6 digits, then I just ignore the 0, right? That's why I put a right here. Yeah. And this formula gives me the desired file name, right? So I'll get clip 1 should be this with date time stamp. Clip 43 should be this with date timestamp. Therefore, I will do a move command that will simply rename this file to this file. That's what the MV file does, right? I have a whole list of these commands. I will just simply right-click, copy, copy, and then I will go into my console and paste it. And yeah, you see it here. So once I paste it, I will get everything in the right file names. I will no longer get clip 1 to clip 40 something. I will get Southern Ridges, with the date and timestamp. And these are the files that are added in Final Cut Pro, right? Okay, this says that we have created our files. We have now created a bunch of files with the right date timestamp. If we go into our Video 360 folder, Southern Ridges Run, and this is the output, right? Our Google spreadsheet has helpfully renamed our Southern Ridges files, clip 1 to clip 30 something, 40 something, into the right date timestamp. Yeah. So this will allow us to trace back during our editing process what was the date time recorded for this particular clip, which will match with the Garmin fit file. This will have the latitude and longitude for that particular date timestamp. What we do next is that we take these videos and we import them into Final Cut Pro. So here's my Final Cut Pro. I will use the import button, this button here, import media. I will select which reel to use. So I created a bunch of reels. I created okay, let's explain. I created a bunch of reels for warm up, for running alone, for running others, and so on. I made sure that I leave the files in place. We do not import the files into the library. It will be quite huge. But I want to leave the files as is. I do not copy them into the Final Cut Pro library. I did a fixed audio problems, and I will do a transcribe just for fun. And then just import. Yeah, I selected the files. So my files are located at here, not Bishan Low Run. I will put them in from Southern Ridges Run. Not this one. Sorry, except at old folder. Video 360. Southern Ridges Run. Yeah, so I just selected the MP4 files, just and then import. Yeah. That's why I now have a bunch of MP4 files in our folders here. Yeah, to create these folders, I had to right-click New Event. You will see folders for the branch, which happens at the end of the run. So this is what they call the equi-rectangular format, right? It's a 360-degree format, 360-degree horizontally, 160-degree vertically, right? This is how we edit the video in Final Cut Pro. Everything must be in MP4 equi-rectangular format, otherwise you can't edit them. We have another folder for running alone. So this is the later part of the run where I'm running all by myself. We have a bunch of videos for running with others. This is for me to to feature more of the runners in our videos so that we can see more faces rather than me just running by myself, right? And videos for the warm up. Unfortunately, we didn't use much videos for the warm up because the time was short. It wasn't enough time. But I did use this very nice opening shot here. That's when Sheng was doing a briefing to us. Actually, the shot is after the warm up. Here, this shot. This is where Sheng was doing a briefing, and I put this as the opening shot for a video. This is nice because it has the pretty nice roof geometry, which I use for the video. Right. So editing was pretty straightforward. Once I have the rectangular video is inside Final Cut Pro, I had to select. I did a drag. That's why you see this yellow rectangle here, and then I drag it into a timeline to create the project. I had to do some framing. So framing means that I had to do I had to focus where exactly is the video. This is equi-rectangular video. It's got it's 360 degree across, 180 degrees above. So it's a lot of video. What part of the video do I want to show in my Instagram reel? I had to drag it into this point here, and I had to tell Final Cut Pro that I'm only interested in this particular position. I want to point the camera at this position and focus there. So if we look at this, the video effects, you can see that the pan and the tilt values have been changed. So pan is to pan left and right, right? Tilt is to tilt up and down. So these are values that I changed. Also, I changed the field of view. If we increase the field of view, you can see more things. If we decrease the field of view, you'll see less things, right? Um, Maybe let me give you a short the demo of how I did this. So suppose we decide to use this particular clip for the intro, right? We have selected this clip. I will create just for info. I will just create a new project. Okay. Let me just okay. How did I create a new project? Let me give you yeah. Okay. Let me give you a quick run through of how I created the project. I created a new event. Okay, so let's say I will just call it a demo event, right? I'm trying to create a vertical format video. So instead of creating the settings from scratch, I'm going to just import a existing Instagram reel and I wanted to use those settings. So suppose I have another Instagram reel that I created before. Let's say video 360. Okay, I'm going to open a portable SSD. I'm going to look for the last run, which is Bishan Lower Pierce run. In Bishan Lower Pierce, I created a clip called Reel 1 that has got the vertical format that I want, vertical format 4K. So I will just import this into my demo reel and I will just right click, new project, and let's just call it demo for now. Yeah. But for reality, in actuality, I call it Reel 1. Notice that this is vertical format, vertical 4K resolution at 29.97 frames per second. This is the format that we want for Instagram Reels. The audio is stereo, 48 kilohertz. That's fine. Okay. Now that we have created this reel in the right format, we don't need this anymore. I can just right click and delete. I can remove the space here by clicking on it, change duration to 0. This will remove the gap. Yep. In fact, now I'm done with my clip. I don't need this anymore. I don't need the previous reel. I can just right click and move to trash. It will remove the reference, not the actual video. Then, yeah, I'm done. So now I can start adding things to the timeline. Yeah. So before I drag in the audio, the video, let me start with the music. What I do is that I always put in the music and show the beats of the music so that I can match the video precisely with every single beat. Everything is going to be very precise. If you saw my earlier videos, I created a piece of music, Weightless by Martin Garrix, over here. Let me see. Did I put in real? Yeah. I created this clip called Weightless. This is an audio file that I created earlier. I used Logic Pro to separate the vocal track from instrumental tracks. Then I imported it to Final Cut Pro, did some tweaking to remove the vocals. And then I exported as audio file. Why did I export as audio file? Well, that's because I can drag it into my project here. And I can do this really fun feature called beat detection. So I'll just select this. Notice that all the beats come out, right? It will tell me that the dash lines are every single musical beat in this song. Then it will tell me that this line here, a faint vertical line, is one musical bar, which corresponds to 4 musical beats. These dark vertical lines, they correspond to the sections of the song. So this will tell me this is chorus. This will tell me there's a verse, or maybe it's post-chorus and all that. So very helpful for me to align my video with the different sections of the music. Right, this is a very helpful feature that I like with beat detection, and that's why I'm using a audio file. If I just use a compound clip, it will not do the beat detection. I have to export the compound clip into an audio file and import it here again. Then you'll see that there's some quirks. If I zoom in here, let me do a Control plus plus plus. You can see that my timing is a bit off. Since the video seems to be starting, the audio seems to be starting slightly 1 beat off. I can drag it to make sure that everything starts precisely on a beat. I can drag it to make sure that the end also ends precisely on a beat. Yeah, this is a bit weird. I'm ending a bit too early. So let me just drag it to like, half a bar, 2 beats. Yeah, that way when we loop the music around, it will sound seamless. Yeah. And then I started dragging all the clips into the timeline. Remember earlier on that we wanted to do a warm up and we wanted to do this part as the beginning of the video? Well, I just simply drag this whole thing into here. Yeah, that's it. That's the beginning part. Then I'll do some adjustment. I wanted to make sure that it aligns precisely with the beat. Here is a chorus. I want to end it one musical bar after the chorus. So I'll just simply drag this, make sure that the musical note is selected, and that's it. We have a opening scene that has got precisely 2 musical bars, 8 musical notes, 8 musical beats at the around the chorus of music. Yeah, this is good. Then I talk about framing. So notice that we are now pointing in a very strange position. What I did was that you see the orientation here, so I had to adjust it. I do a tilt. I do a field of view. So typically my tilt will be 25 degrees. Field of view will be 150 because we want to see more, right? But then I wanted Sheng to be on the right side of the frame. So I did, you see this pan feature here? I did a panning. I drag it, and that will move Sheng to the right. Yeah. I want to see more of the seating, so I can do a tilt like this. Yeah. But in reality, I did some kind of animation. So to do an animation, of the different kind of panning and tilting, I had to use a keyframes. So for example, to begin this clip, I want to show the ceiling, right? Therefore, I will, let's say at this point in time here, I want to do a keyframe, which is the tilt. You see this button here? I put a tilt button here. Then I will go to the beginning of the clip, add in another keyframe. Yeah. Where do we see the keyframes? You can right click, show video animation. So you can see that there are 2 keyframes added in here, right? Now I can adjust the keyframe. Suppose I want to start with the tilt at the top. So I would change this like this, right? Now notice that my tilt will now animate as I move the video, right? See, it will start from the top, then tilts slowly downwards, then it will stay there. Yeah, this is so that's what we did with the tilting keyframes. We started at the top, 83 degrees, then we tilt it downwards at 32 degrees. I also changed some of the panning, some of the roll settings just to make it look a bit different. If you look at the final clip, the panning is a bit different. What I realized was that this thing looks nicer if I aligned it. So what I did was that I created another keyframe here for, I think it's the roll. Let me add a keyframe for roll. Here. But I also wanted another keyframe here because I don't want to affect the roll. So I added a keyframe here. So now you see there are 2 keyframes. I want to head back to the earlier keyframe here. And I want to change the roll so that it looks nicely aligned. See? Now everything looks horizontal. And as I move it down, you can see that the roll changes and it rolls back to normal, right? So that's what I did. So I changed the roll so that everything is nicely aligned, horizontal, nicely geometric. Then I slowly roll it towards Shing like this. Yeah. So it can get quite complicated. So you can see that I'm using 2 layers of keyframes to animate the roll as well as the tilt. Yeah. Then I maybe I added some pan also to make it really, to make it look nicer. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that. So it's a lot of layering involved. Let me head back to the original video I was doing. I was doing reel 1 and next to I was doing reel 1, yes. Okay, I'll explain why reel 1 has got this sub clip, but let's go into this reel 1A. So this is the compound clip that I use. So notice that it starts from the top. Then after that, slowly scrolls down. But then you see there's a zoom motion here. So the zoom motion is done by using a field of view. Notice that the field of view will change. This thing here, it will change as I zoom in to Shing. Yeah. So it gets quite complicated, but roughly that's how we do this kind of animation. Yeah. But anyway, that's how we created this opening clip. Then the next part of the clip has got a split screen. We use a two-way split screen. The top is of people running, and the bottom frame is of the scenery, right? I captured a lot of scenery. I didn't want it to go to waste, so that's why I put it in the lower frame. But in any case, the lower frame will be partially obscured by the Instagram titles. So lower frame is not so important. Upper frame is more important, and that's why I put the people on top. Notice also that I desaturated the scenery at the bottom so that we can focus more on the folks on top. How did I do this? I created two clips. There's a run one and scenery one. Okay. I drag the clips into the timeline, make sure that it fits with the music. In this case, you can see that everything is precisely aligned to the chorus. Yeah. Let me go through the whole structure first. So I'm aligning everything according to the structure of the music. This is the chorus. This is the end of the chorus. And I believe this is a part of the music that says, weightless and being free and all that. So that's why I decided to go full frame and show the Henderson Waves Bridge. And then I do a smooth dissolve to the branch, right? Notice that everything happens within these two bold lines. There's a bold green line here, and there's another bold green line here, right? Everything happens in there. It corresponds to a section to the music, the post-chorus, I believe, right? And then it goes into the verse, which is these lines here. So again, notice that I split out the branch segment according to the structure of the song. This starts a post-chorus, or is it the verse? I think it's the verse. So the first two bars of the verse, I show some friends eating brunch. The second two bars of the verse, I will show another two bunch of friends eating. Then another verse here, I will show more friends eating. Then towards the end of the music, I will just show just an establishing shot of our Kent Ridge MRT. Yeah, just to we started at Kent Ridge MRT, we finished at Kent Ridge MRT. This clip, this whole video has got like a closure, a kind of a looping element to it, right? With this kind of a closure, it looks more balanced. Yeah, that's the overall structure of the video. So once again, we have a intro, which is at Kent Ridge MRT. We will have a running clip with the scenery. We will have near the chorus of the music, we have the running at the Henderson Ridges, Henderson Waves, showing the scenery. Transition to the brunch at Food Center, followed by clips of our folks eating at the food center, having brunch at the food center, finishing up at the Kent Ridge MRT. Let's talk about split screen. How did I do this split screen part? So I created two sections. I dragged the clips into a clip on top for the running. Actually, there are a few clips I'll explain later on. Then I did the scenery at the bottom. So I started with the running clip on top. Initially, it was 3 clips. I right-click, create a compound clip. What are the clips that I used to create a compound clip? Yeah, here are 3 clips. So there's the first clip here, second clip here, and the third clip here. Again, I used the reframing. I changed the tilt and the pan and the field of view to make sure that I focus on our runners. Notice that the field of view also changes slightly. So that's when we did this zooming effect onto our runners so we can see their faces more clearly. Same thing here. I did some pan. So I pan from the left to the right so that we can see our runners. And also I changed the field of view to show more of our runners in focus. Same thing here. I did a panning and I did a field of view to zoom in on our runners, right? These 3 clips, I create a compound clip and put it into one single clip called Run 1. Why did I do one compound clip? Well, we need to do a split screen. It's easier to do a split screen with a compound clip. Otherwise, it's hard to do the reframing. The bottom part of scenery, how do we create this? Well, okay, firstly, you notice that the scenery is desaturated. That's because I did a color adjustment. If we look at the color adjustment here, does it show? You can see that it's desaturated with low contrast. How did we get this? Was that if you look at the color grading presets, there is a setting called desaturated. Okay, desaturated with low contrast. I just simply drag this clip into this scenery here, and that's how I created the desaturation, right? How did I create this compound clip? Well, I added a few clips, then I selected this. The clips I selected were a whole bunch of clips. So there's actually a lot happening in here. There's this part was at Cambridge. This part is at Hot Park. Then this part is running from Hot Park into Telok Blangah Hill. Then this part is at Telok Blangah Hill, Mount Faber, and then finally Mount Faber. Notice that in this clips, I'm doing the panning, right? So that's why you will see the animation here. If I expand it, you can see that I'm doing a orientation for the, you'll see that I'm doing a panning from left to center, hold for two, okay, left to center in 1 second, hold for 1 second, okay, my mistake, it's right to center, hold for 1 second, and then center to left, hold at left for 1 second, then pan back to center, right? Also is doing the cross fading. That's why it can fade in nicely. If I'm going to show all the video animation, you can see that they are all got the cross fading. So the opacity, you can see it's 100% fade out, whereas this clip is at 0% fade into 100%, then 100% fade out to 0. The next clip will take over from 0 to 100%. Yeah, so that's why you can see this very smooth fade in, fade out. To explain the panning, we can see the effects here under orientation. If I go back to the, okay, let me select my clip. We go back to the first keyframe. So notice that the panning is at -53 here, right, at the beginning. If I go to the next keyframe, you can see that the panning is now -3.7. Yeah. So this means that I'm panning from right to center. Then next keyframe is at -3.7. That means I'm holding it here for 1 second. Then I'm panning to 116 degrees. That means I'm panning left. Then for next second, I'm holding it for 1 second at the same position, 116 degrees, which is left. And then I pan back to center, which is yeah, about that, 116, I think. Yeah. Actually it should be 0. But so that's why I create this I create this motion, panning from right to center to left, then to center. Yeah. So the panning is a bit different from all the others. Because this one is panning from left to center, the next clip here will be panning from left to center, hold at center, center to right, hold at right, right to center. Then this will change back. So it's like I copy and paste the attributes for panning, copy and paste. Well, I copy from here to here, then from here to here. And then you get this panning. You get the idea. Yeah. But this whole clip is quite long. It's it's 28 seconds long. I'm not playing all 28 seconds of this. Therefore, if you go back to the previous compound clip, I did a speed up. If you look at the timing editor, retime editor, you can see that I'm speeding up by 200%. That's why everything is so quick. It finished everything in about 12 seconds, even though this whole clip is quite longer than that, right? And that's why it feels longer, right? This whole thing, it's just sped up with a lot of panning. Okay, so now we have a clip called Run Run, which is the running on top. We have a clip called Scenery One, which is the thing at the bottom. How did I create this split screen? Well, this split screen comes from here. I'm using a third-party plugin called LenoFX. I chose a template called LenoFX Reuse, as in Instagram Reuse. I selected a split screen 2.2, split screen 2.2. I drag this into a timeline here, and then I specified which clips to be split, right? If you look at the properties for this thing here, you can see that yeah, here you can see there's a drop zone 1 and a drop zone 2. Drop zone 1 is set to run 1. Drop zone 2 is set to scenery 1. So this is drop zone 1. Below here is drop zone 2. How did I set run 1 and scenery 1? Well, I created these clips, run 1, scenery 1, right? So when I selected when I created the split screen, I just simply went in here and I drag run 1 over to here. That will set drop zone 1. Then for drop zone 2, I drag scenery 1 into here. And that's how I created a split screen. Yeah, so it's quite cool and quite fun, quite easy. I had to change the Y values 23.6, 22.9, so that I move our videos a bit up and a bit down, right? So that they look nicely on the split screen. Right, that's how it works. So nothing interesting here. I'm just doing again an animated pan from left to right. Same thing with the food center. I did animated pan from left to right. Only thing special here is that I did you can see I did a cross dissolve. To do a cross dissolve, you look for transitions. This guy here, dissolves, cross dissolves, then just drag this onto the clip. Then I just widen it a bit to fit this. And then the final part, we come to, again, split screens. I created 2 clips here, branch 1 and branch 2. Branch 1, I created, with my friends at the top, right? This is just one clip with a panning animation. So you can see that the animation I use here, hold it for 1.5 seconds, then I pan for 1 second, then hold it for 1.5 seconds, right? Same thing for branch 2. It's another panning animation that I did. So everything is all precisely timed. So notice that I use precisely 1.5 seconds, then 2.5 seconds, then hold, right? The reason for doing this precise matching is that we want the split screen to be synchronized. Yep. And again, I drag the split screen 2.2 into the timeline here. Split screen 2.2, I have to drag in the branch 1 and branch 2. So I selected branch 1 here, dragged it into my split screen, drop zone 1. Then I click branch 2, drag into my split screen, branch 2, drop zone 2. Yeah. Yeah. So then was a lot of repetition. I did the same thing for branch 3, same panning for branch 3. Branch 4, the same panning, right? Then I created a split screen here, and I created the drop zone. Branch 3, branch 4, just drag it in, right? And one more time, we did this. We created a branch 5, which is the pan. We created a branch 6, which is again another pan. Then I created a split screen, which has a drop zone 1 set to branch 5, drop zone 2 set to branch 6. One thing remember is that we disabled the built-in and built-out. We don't want the transition to happen for this. Otherwise, it will show like, the top frame moving in to the left and to the right. Well, we don't want the frames to move in. That's why I disabled the built-in and the built-out, right? And then we finish up with with this thing here, which is obviously another animation. We can see that there's a panning animation. If you look at the pan values, you can see that I'm panning from left to right. Yeah, and that's how we created this whole complicated sequence here. Now, I also did the color adjustment. Now, I wanted to apply the color adjustment to the whole clip instead of just individual things. So what I did was I selected everything, Control A, right click, new compound clip. And that's how I created this thing called Reel 1A, right? And then I selected this clip and I did a color adjustment. The way I did a color adjustment is that I didn't select a preset. The presets were a bit weird. So I just did an enhance light and color. Then it automatically adjusted these values for me. Yeah, it automatically created the saturated rates and all that. So I'm using the auto settings from Final Cut Pro. Before I click enhance light and color, everything was quite dull. After clicking enhance light and color, I got this this very bright red kind of color scheme. Maybe a bit too red. Yeah, but looks okay to me. Then I added in the titles. So the title here, Kenridge MRT. Now the reason why I didn't want to put this title inside the Reel 1A is because this whole Reel 1 has got color adjustment. I don't want to apply the color adjustment to my titles. The titles are really perfect. They are professionally designed. Where do I get the titles? I got them from the LenoFX. Um, LenoFX, I bought this thing called LenoFX, the combined pack. I forgot what it's called. It comes with 50 isometric titles. I chose title 08. Title 08 has this, has this nice animated thing. I drag this into my timeline and then just simply, change the text. So I came in here and then just type Kenridge MRT. I made some adjustments to the location, position, the width, the height, and also the X and Y. I did the same thing for this thing here, the CIM title. So I changed to CIM Food Center, changed the settings a bit, changed X, Y, and the width and height. Yeah, and that's how I got the two titles. So notice that the two titles are not color corrected, they are not color adjusted. They are above my Reel 1A, which has got a color adjustment. So that's why my titles do not undergo any kind of color adjustment. Yeah. And that was how I created this video for the Southern Ridges Run by the Singapore Frontrunners. Yeah. Uh, yeah. And that's it for today's live stream. In the next live stream, I'll talk about the run that I just created with my friend Alfie at the Maju Forest. We did a run of the very old Clementi Railway. Yeah, and I'll be doing same thing, editing from Insta360 Studio, exporting into MP4 files, and then importing into Final Cut Pro for editing. Oh, one thing before I finish, I had to use some library settings inside the Final Cut Pro to manage the size. By default, when it tries to do rendering and caching and all that, it will take up a lot of space in the Final Cut Pro project. The way to remove this, I discovered from another YouTuber, is that you click on library, then you can see all these settings here. Notice that I changed the settings to media goes into Video 360. This is a folder that I created myself. Cache also goes into Video 360. Where is this Video 360? It's located at it's located at a upper folder. So my Southern Ridges Run Final Cut Pro, my project is here. But I don't want my library to expand. It's only 20 meg right now, which is manageable. The reason for doing that, for keeping, I mean, the way I did it for keeping so slow is keeping it so low is that I'm keeping it at a higher directory, the higher folder. The caching for all that. So you can see that there's a library folder here. There's proxy media, optimized media. That's because I set it here. When I click on library, and when I set the library properties, I set my media to be at Video 360. The higher up folder that we saw just now. I set my cache at the Video 360 folder, higher up. I also kept my backups at Video 360. Yep. That's why that even though the whole thing is 28 gigabytes with including a cache, most of it will not go into the library folder. It will go into the Video 360 folder. This is good because when I want to back up my project, when I publish it onto Google Drive, I have a very small Final Cut Pro library file. It's a lot smaller to manage, right? But other things I kept as is. Motion content, I left it as is. It's not going to be quite big, so I just left the motion content as default in the motion templates folder. Yeah, so this is a very helpful tip for me to reduce the size of the project. Previously, I tried to do a file, delete generated library files, but it didn't help to reduce the size of the project. The only way to do this neatly is to set the media folder to my upper folder, set the cache folder to my upper topmost folder, Video 360, and also the backups to the upper folder. This will result in a very small Final Cut Pro library, 20 meg, even though the entire storage is quite huge, 28 gigabytes. You don't see it here. It actually goes up to here. Yeah, you can see the cache is huge, 40 gigs, 78 gigs. That I don't need to back up the cache. I just need to back up the Final Cut Pro library here. Yep, there. So this concludes my live stream for today. Next video, please join me as I edit the video for our Maju Forest hike, the Old Clementi Railroad. I'll put the link in the video description.